You hear that fan? It's the middle of December and my room is at like 40 degrees. Hello, my beautiful viewers, and also my English teacher who will be seeing this video because I am making it for an assignment in his class. That is also the reason I will not be able to swear in this video. I'm sorry, it's out of my control, boys. Anyway, today I'm going to be talking about how The Boys has the best representation out of any other TV show. Well, TV show that I've ever seen. If you don't know what The Boys is, it's a really good TV show about superheroes in a modern setting and how superheroism is monetized as a service. Kind of like shoe shining, but with more blood and guts. A lot more blood and guts. Needless to say, this video will also have spoilers for that show, and also BoJack Horseman, 13 Reasons Why, and Far Cry 6, which I'll also be talking about here. But you get spoiler warnings before those sections as well. So if you haven't seen The Boys, I do highly recommend watching it and then coming back to this video, because it is absolutely fantastic. Go on. I'll wait. Okay, you done? If you're not, then here's your warning. 3, 2, 1, Maeve's gay! Jokes aside, Maeve is one of the most well-written gay characters that I've ever seen. And her liking of women is worked into the story in one of, if not the best and most unique ways I've ever seen. So, in the 5th episode of the first season of the show, it's revealed that the character Queen Maeve, who I'll just be calling Maeve throughout this video, was in a relationship with another woman named Alana at one point. Her name might actually be pronounced Elena, admittedly. It's been a while since I've seen the show. Eventually, they do end up back together, but that's not really the important bit. It's important to note that it's stated that Maeve and the poster boy of the show, Homelander, were also in a relationship at some point. So the audience already knows that Maeve is into men and women. Later on in the show, Vought, the company that basically invented superheroes and also monetized them as a brand, finds out about Maeve's relationship with her ex-girlfriend. This sort of sparks an entire ad campaign centering around Maeve's new title as Brave Maeve. Mind you, the theme of marketing and maintaining a good reputation for Vought is shown throughout the entire series, which we will be seeing with the other characters later on in this video. Anyway, back to Brave Maeve. The Voice puts a lot of really dark comedy in the show, and the fact that the same company that tried to cover up murders would capitalize on one of their most famous employees being bisexual really fits perfectly into the world of The Boys. It also led to one of my favorite scenes in the entire show.
Welcome to Brave Maeve's Inclusive Kingdom.
A lot of the time, I'll see gay or bisexual characters just have their sexual orientation displayed as a reoccurring plot point, which isn't inherently bad, but it can get stale pretty quickly. Especially once the classic family member / authority figure is homophobic narrative is over and done with. But in The Boys, Maeve doesn't come out as bisexual in this grand way. It's just kind of shown to the audience. You're not expected to ooh and ah because Maeve kissed a girl and she liked it. You're just kind of meant to go, okay. A really common trope with LGBT characters is the unsupportive family member or authority figure scenario that I mentioned earlier, but The Boys doesn't do that, and I think that's why so many people like that show. It tries new things. Instead of Maeve's employer being unsupportive, the company she works for is actually too supportive. Another great aspect of Maeve's bisexuality is that it's not just a one and done bit. Maeve and Alana stay together for the rest of the show, assuming they don't break up in season 4, which is releasing pretty soon after this video goes up. Anyway, enough about The Boys. Another really good example of LGBT representation is in BoJack Horseman. Here's your spoiler warning for that show. 3, 2, 1... The character Todd Chavez, who is voiced by Jesse Pinkman, has an entire character arc about realizing he's asexual, and it plays into the story as a reoccurring gag in a lot of really smart ways. And I think it's really cool because it's not just writing him as asexual so the creators of the show can say, look, we have an asexual, we're so progressive. And instead it's part of his character and the actual story. From what I've seen, a lot of media with gay characters will either make it part of the story in a really dumb way, or the character will just be gay for the sake of it and will have no real impact on the story. Which, at that point, why even make them gay? It just ends up coming off as pandering. Anyway, back to The Boys, the focal point of this video. Part of the reason I think they do representation really well is because they poke fun at both sides of the aisle. For example, the Vaughtland scene with all the rainbows and gay stuff everywhere is meant to make fun of corporate wokeness, but there's also a character introduced as a minor antagonist in the show's 3rd season named Gunpowder, who is meant to be a caricature of right-wing gun activists. His first appearance in season 3 shows him talking to a bunch of kids about the importance of firearm ownership, and his ammunition belts and multiple firearms are a huge part of his character design. What I found funniest about his character is that the license plate of his car reads 2A Forever, meaning Second Amendment forever. And if you don't know your United States history, the Second Amendment gives citizens the right to bear arms. Kind of funny how I know that as a Canadian, but anyway. Much like Brave Maeve, there have been a lot of other LGBT characters in The Boys. One of them is the classic anti-gay Christian preacher who secretly likes big buff men. Ezekiel's entire character is that he's a Christian superhero who's part of an organization called Capes for Christ, where he preaches anti-homosexual messages. But it's revealed that he's actually gay very early on in the show. Again, it's utilized very well into the story, where the main characters try to blackmail him with pictures of him making out with another dude. I have to get this thing up to 8 minutes for a passing grade, so I'm going to stray from my original topic and move on to non-LGBT representation. Still in The Boys. In the show's 3rd season, the character A-Train tries to connect more with the whole being black bit. The fact that he's black is actually never brought up until it's meant to be part of the story, which just adds on to The Boys' spectacular writing. Because obviously when we see A-Train, we know that he's black, and when he makes that a bigger part of his identity, represented by his costume change, we kind of feel the same way he does. He's always been black, and we've always known that, but now he's trying to make that a real part of himself, and we're experiencing that along with him when we see how he changes himself in order to achieve that goal. Also, this whole character arc leads to a lot of really funny jokes, my personal favorite one being A-Train's video game.
And for the Gen Zs, a state-of-the-art interactive learning experience.
Is that a video game about the slave trade?
Now we're leaving the realm of The Boys completely, but going back to the LGBT representation. Because now's when I talk about Far Cry 6, so here's your spoiler warning for that. 3, 2, 1, Paulo's trans. Just to preface, Far Cry 6 takes place in the fictional Spanish-speaking country of Yara, so there's a bunch of Spanish words that I can't pronounce with my American accent, but I will try my best. In the video game Far Cry 6, the character Paulo de la Vega is a female who transitioned into a man with all the hormones and surgery and all that jazz. Far Cry 6, in my opinion at least, is a really good video game, but the way that Ubisoft represents trans people through Paulo is kind of... eh. In the game, Paulo is dating another character named Talia Benavides, and I think the relationship is kind of fun to see play out in the game. Because they get into somewhat immature arguments that you get to witness play out right in front of you, and you can also tell that they are pretty serious about their relationship. So, you know, pretty good character writing there. Anyway, the real meat and potatoes of what I want to say requires a bit of explanation of Far Cry 6's region mechanics. So, there's 3 regions, not including the tutorial island and the capital of Yara. And each region has a big bad guy and a group of good guys that you have to team up with to kill the bad guy in the final mission of each region. In Paulo and Talia's case, they're in the region of Valle de Oro, and the bad guy there is actually a woman named Maria Marquesa. Once you finish all the operations in Valle de Oro, you go with Talia to livestream Maria's murder. I don't remember the mission all too well, but I think the original plan was to kill Maria later on, but she was shot by Talia prematurely because Maria referred to Paulo as a tomboy, which I guess pissed off Talia. The reason I think that the way Paulo was represented as a trans person was mediocre was because it can't really be considered pandering, seeing as this aspect of the character did end up impacting the story, but in Paulo's case it was just kind of unnecessary. I mean, if Paulo wasn't trans, sure, the story would be different, but the writers could have just had Maria come up with a different insult to piss off Talia. I think Ubisoft could have handled it better than the way they did, but this wasn't outright terrible. Enough about Far Cry 6 though. There was actually about a week-long gap between the writing of this sentence and everything that preceded it, because it was really hard for me to come up with bad examples of LGBT representation, especially because I tend to consume, you know, good media. So this was the hard part, but I did manage to get it done, because, you know, I'm just that cool. So I talked to a bisexual friend of mine about gay representation. She's not exactly gay, but she's halfway there, and I think that counts enough. She made a really good distinction between a character that's gay and a gay character. Now, literally speaking, those are the same things, but the comparison being made here is between a character that just happens to be gay, when that aspect is just as important as any other part of their identity, and a character that's gay just so the writers get to dedicate an entire episode to show them discovering their sexuality, and never have it impact the story or the character in any meaningful way. Just as a general rule, I think an entire episode of a show dedicated to a character's sexuality is a bad idea, especially now that the standard length of one of those has reached 40 gosh dang minutes. There is one show that does it right, and that's Sex Education. This part doesn't have any spoilers for that show, by the way, so you're fine. The entire series revolves around teenagers doing the thug shaker on each other, and like half of them are gay. So it does actually make sense to dedicate an entire episode to a character's sexuality, and that's also what the rest of the show is about. Not only that, but the show does a great job at representing gay characters. Some of them are your typical good guys, and others are just really dumb, rather than the kind of representation when a gay character can't be shown doing anything remotely bad, out of fear that people will think the writer is a Homophobe. Okay, I really gotta stop giving good examples here. It's time to get negative. 13 Reasons Why. A show that has been the center of several controversies, but I'm not going to be talking about the one that we're all thinking about. Because this video is about gay representation. Not that. So, in the show's first season, the character of Courtney something, I don't remember her last name, but the point is that she likes women. How did they introduce this, you ask? With some nerd with a dumb haircut taking pictures of her smooching another girl. Right off the bat, great way to introduce this aspect of Courtney's character. Really good way to add tension and make this an actual part of the story. What? How many times is this brought up in all 4 seasons of the show? Oh wow, that's less than the number of Far Cry games released. Yeah, this barely impacts the story. It gets brought up once or twice per season just to remind the audience that Courtney's gay, but it's just so much wasted potential. And it's not like this is the show's only gay character. The protagonist's best friend is gay, and I think they did a pretty good job there. But for some reason the writers just decided that Courtney wouldn't get more than 5 microseconds of screen time, and only one of those microseconds would be having another woman on screen with her. It's so dumb because she had potential, but the fact that she's gay is just kind of treated as a last-ditch excuse to create tension, so she ends up feeling more like a plot device than a character. Anyway, that's the end of the video. Subscribe if you want. You can also join my Discord server for updates on future videos, or if you just want to talk with yours truly. Have a great day. Unless you're my English teacher, in which case I hope you have a slightly below average day.